Good morning, all. Today, our topic is COVID and after. What next for the real estate and construction sector in India? Our today's expert panelists are Mr. Arun Sahai, who is currently the Chief Operating Officer with Ahluwalia Contracts India Limited. He is currently the National Vice President and official spokesperson of Builders Association of India (BAI) and represents in various government bodies. He is a member CEDC in PIS and member Smart Cities Committee. He has also been Vice President for 2 terms in Indian Building Congress IBC from 2016 to 2018 and continues to be Governing Council member of the body. And we have Mr. Jayant Vaita, who is the Director of Colliers International Design Services. Mr. Jayant Vaita has been one of the founding members of Synergy Property Development Services. And we have Mr. K. Leva, who is the MD of SFS Homes, Kerala, Cochin. He has over 3 decades of solid experience in real estate projects. Previously was the chairman of BAI Cochin Center for 2 terms and served as the chairman of BAI Trivandrum Center for 2 terms. And he has served as a secretary for 2 years and chairman for 2 years of Kerala Builders Forum, KBF, which is now CREDAI. And we have Advocate Cherian John, who is the managing director of High Life Builders, and he's presently the state vice chairman for CREDAI. And Mr. Shiva Senatipati, an experienced construction project management and cost management professional with more than 18 years of industry experience, both in India and overseas. He holds a leadership position in GLEEDS India and was instrumental in the growth of GLEEDS in India since its establishment in 2008. And today's moderator is Mr. Gauridasan Nair, who is a senior journalist, and he's the editor-chief of Construction Philosophy magazine. And the host of the event is myself, Nebu Abraham, editor and publisher of Construction Philosophy magazine. On behalf of Advanced Construction Philosophy, I welcome you all, and I would request Mr. Gauridasan Nair to give a brief of construction philosophy.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Construction Philosophy is a 1-year-old publication. We are completing a year this month, and we were planning a annual celebration, but we have had to postpone it, and we are meeting all of you in the midst of this COVID pandemic. As you might have noticed, this is a very strangely named publication dealing with the construction industry. So our goal is to see that there is a philosophy in construction, in built-up spaces, and our idea generally is to make people understand that there are people working in the industry who knows about society, about spaces, about constructions, and their role in social life. So we have been pursuing our content in the magazine over the past 1 year with this goal clearly in sight. So amidst this COVID pandemic, we thought we should not sit idle. We should be connecting with the industry leaders, the captains of the industry, as also experts and expert commentators on the industry. And we have had, this is, I think, the 4th in a series of webinars that we have been holding, two of them at the national level and 2 at the state level. So we welcome all of you to this webinar, for which we have given the title COVID and After. We are trying to look at the many challenges that the construction industry and also the housing sector faces in the face of this COVID pandemic and the kind of huge, massive disruption that has happened across India and across the globe on account of this. Now, I'd love to set the ball rolling by asking this question to all of you for brief responses with an assumption. Assume that we are today talking about the construction industry and the housing sector, the housing industry, on the day prior to the COVID pandemic outbreak. What is the situation today without COVID? Let's talk about tomorrow after that. So I think the situation in the housing sector, which we generally call as the real estate sector and the construction industry during the pre-COVID week is something that calls for attention, given the kind of prognostications, the prophecies and predictions, and the analysis of the situation. So can I please request Sri Sahai, uh, as one of the top functionaries of the Builders Association of India, how was the industry faring before we started out in this new journey?
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is safe and healthy with you, with yourself and family during these tough times and difficult times. Now, Mr. Nair has just put a question. Pre-COVID, and we all know the real estate sector has been under huge stress. For last around 3 years now, we've been facing a tough time, and things have not been improving because of certain factors. It started with 2016, in fact, more than 3 years now. It started with demonetization in 2016 November, followed by RERA regulations, which came up. So the real estate sector, especially the housing sees multiple consumers, whereas the other sectors still sees selective consumers. So housing, we have investors, we have end users, but the sector was not doing good. One, during those 4 years, what had happened was there was a lot of inventory which had been available for the buyers. Performance was not happening with the developers. With the result, things were getting from bad to worst. There was no confidence been shown towards the developers. A consumer had stopped making payments. Developers, with the result, the works stopped at actual site projects. Delivery was an issue. So there were multiple issues which already were happening, and people were trying to resolve them. The government, central government as well as state governments, they were trying to come to the rescue of the developers for the projects which were struck. We in Delhi NCR, being here, I could see main developers who had been, whether it was Amarpali, been given to NBCC for restructuring their works, whether it was Unitech or not many other developers. There was also a fund which was being allocated, but I don't think that fund did disperse any amount to any of the developers. It was all in the stages of working out how the modalities would be there. If that was not enough, this COVID-19 happened in India in February.
Yeah, we will come to that. We have given us a perspective of the national scene. Now let me turn to Sri Lava, who has been, in the thick of business in Kerala, who knows the inside out of the business in Kerala. Sri Lava.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. See, Kerala is a little peculiar from rest of the country. Surely because our economy has been governed by the Gulf economy for the last 30 years. The Gulf entire investment in land, buildings, construction, hotels, hospitals, any construction you see, any big house you see, all this, the money has been coming from the Gulf. So we were little insulated during the national recession or from the Indian context. Surely because if Gulf booms, Kerala booms, and we are all, every day we are seeing in the paper about 2 million Keralites working there, and huge inward remittances. So that was kept the Kerala economy growing not only in the housing sector, but the hospitals, in the hotels, in any theaters, malls. All this is the Gulf money that have flowed in. So that way, Kerala was little protected in spite of not having any manufacturing or any agriculture of produce which is consumable. Everything we say has to come from outside the state. But now, with the Gulf going down, I am seeing there is going to be a real pressure on selling of higher value products. Anything, let it be even a house or a car or anything. So that impact is already being felt in the last 6 months because of the dollar price of oil falling. direct impact on Kerala. And now you see in the papers that, people, 2-3 lakhs of people are waiting to come back. So a lot of uncertainty is there. There is no doubt on the uncertainty. And, everybody is guessing. But one good thing, that the silver lining, what we feel is, with, thousands of people coming back, all these people who are already probably in their 50s and have earned money will now want to buy a home. See, anybody here has been there, company accommodation, oil companies, banks, all have been keeping the staff so well there. So we feel some silver lining we can see in the next, after about 2-3 months, we look at some silver lining. Otherwise, things were a little slow. No doubt, things have been slow for the last couple of years. And, Indian economy has been showing. So that's it. So we are waiting for some good times to come.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Let me go over to Sri Jayant Vaita, Director of the Colliers International Design Services. He would obviously, because he's been looking at from the perspective of design and also looking at the pan-India scene, because of his exposure to diversified players in this industry. Sri Vaita?
Yeah, morning to all. My perspective on what was before COVID is really the region-wise, right? Like as Mr. Arun said, Delhi has its own issues of the larger project sort of getting stuck in the middle. Mumbai has very expensive homes and the projects with no buyers, while Bangalore continued to be somewhere between sort of north and south, where the requirement sort of didn't match the availability. There were a lot of requirement for the affordable home and what was there in the stock in terms of larger homes, and developers were just about to start putting together the responses, right? Like good affordable segment housings were just coming up. However, because of the software industries and uncertainties of the funding, there was like a bit of slow response everywhere recorded. The developers were really crunching in terms of fund flows and all the resources put together. While if you can see that the Chennai, which being the conservative market, had sort of going, the demands were getting reduced, right? Like, because that's also, there was a big mismatch in terms of the ticket sizes required and ticket sizes offered, and the mismatch between the capacities and the requirement for that ticket size or the EMI required. So there was always there's the RERA, the GSTs, demonetization, all of that affected on the housing industry. But at the same time, there was a good thing was happening on the sort of middle south in terms of commercial spaces. Office spaces were doing very well, right? To sort of note that there is a kind of practically boom for the office spaces. There was a really, really good demand in terms of warehousing, So apart from the housing industry, I would say the construction in general was kind of diversify itself to the end users directly in terms of the commercial and the retail market. However, the projects were kind of coming few and far in between. There were a lot of issues in terms of the government assistance, the land issues, the regulatory issues like the planning regulations, rules, all of that. And that's affected not only North India, but also in South in terms of Bangalore, Chennai, all that issues. So that was actually a scenario where the real estate industries was just about to come in. Like we kept hearing that, okay, the last quarter was really good. There were good increase in terms of the housing demand. Were showing positive figures, right? SOBA was posted good sort of result in terms of housing demand. Purvankara was going very good regarding the sales. A lot of developers were coming up with different schemes, and before that, everything was kind of coming on a ascending side while this COVID come now. So this is what you can say, that we were just trying to take the step out of the turmoil, and this thing struck. So I think it's up to the industry to rediscover itself. I would leave it at that.
Thank you. We'll go to the details later. Shri Shiva Senadipati, as a project and cost management expert, you would have been seeing the management challenges from your side during the pre-COVID days, and it's going to be even more challenging as we resume operations now. Your take on this?
I was saying, I mean, a lot of my thoughts were about to echo what Mr. Jayant had said in terms of how the market was behaving. I mean, it was very regional, you know, when the performance of the market.
Sorry, 1 second. Are you all able to hear him properly? I have a problem. Is it my system?
Yeah. Voice is low.
It's audible. We can
It's very faint, but it's audible. Continue, Shiva.
Please go ahead.
So it was very regional, and I would say, I mean, some of the markets were, I mean, coming out of the woods very well, while, I mean, some were moving in the right direction. The only challenge was that, you know, in certain fluctuation in the pricing as well, you know, in terms of the construction material, there was a significant fluctuation over the last 1.5 to 2 years when we take out some of the key materials like steel. So that was affecting how the builders will sort of mitigate the risk, if you see. So that was becoming a challenge. But then at the same time, a lot of promoters had performed well, and particularly the warehouse segment was, you know, coming up very well. I mean, that would help a lot of the people in the construction industry. You know, I mean, so because of the e-commerce boom, you know, I mean, all the areas, you know, I mean, were performing very well in terms of all the regions were performing well in the warehouse segment. And even the commercial segment was, I mean, coming next to it. I mean, housing was performing, I would say, at an average level, but definitely the commercial and the warehouse segment was performing very well. And there was a lot of hope for us as, like, you know, in the cost management and project management professionals, that this market would keep us going. And a lot of us were seeing the increased business from these sectors compared to that of the housing. So that was the overall, I mean, view from our perspective. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Shiva. Thank you, Shiva. We have Cherian John, Advocate Cherian John of Highlight Builders here. He's a functionary of the CREDAI in Kerala, State Vice Chairman of CREDAI in Kerala. Welcome to the webinar, Cherian. You know, Srilava has actually thrown some very interesting light on the peculiarity of the Kerala market and the kind of different challenges you have in Kerala. Please, your take on this.
Okay, good morning. No, while in the housing sector, while comparing to many other cities in India, in Kerala, one thing is positive, that we don't have such a huge inventory with a huge cost to carry. That is one positive side. But of course, the industry is highly leveraged with low margin. Market was already in trouble, maybe because of this demonetization and GST. And unfortunately, we started RR just now. It's definitely not the right time to start such a regulation mechanism also. We all know that the first COVID case in India reported in Kerala, in Trichy. Immediately after that, the COVID rapid response team made a survey here. I would like to share the experience of one small panchayat called Kandanisheri, where they found the total population is only 21,000 people. But out of 21,000 people, more than 10% means 2,324 people are staying abroad in 38 countries. In Trichy city, in Trichy district, we found that, you know, the people are staying in 78 countries. Maybe the Malappuram district may be a different situation. As Mr. Leva said, majority of our customers, maybe 65% of our customers from staying in different countries. And out of the 65, almost 45% is staying in Gulf countries alone. So this is a typical market, maybe comparing to many other cities. So that is the main attraction. And now, let us say, maybe little problem for us also in our market.
Oh, that's a very interesting insight. Thank you very much. Now, we move on to the COVID condition. You know, obviously, all of you in the construction industry, whether you're in the housing or public infra or management or whatever, currently the only concern that the government and the industry players have is about the safety of your assets, safety of your inventories, and primarily safety of your manpower, human resources. How are you handling that, Mr. Lava?
And basically, we have office, we have to follow all the government, they have put on rules, 50% attendance, spacing, then, hygiene, all that, see, this is today a thing that anybody will follow. It is not, the government need not walk around with a whip. Because life and death, when it's life and death, people, automatically fall whatever, even they will be more strict than what the government is telling also, when it's life and death. So even somebody from New York says something, you will tend to follow. And in sites also, which was just opened after a month on Monday, and this kind of real strict protocol is being followed. See, if you really see one thing, since it's an all India audience, the quality of accommodation being given by Kerala Kradai builders is much higher standard than what you find in the rest of the country. The kind of labor camp, the kind of food, the hygiene, the water, the sanitation, toilet facility, cleanliness, both at the camp and in our sites. Because that is the way Kerala people, the culture of Kerala is like that. One hygiene, clean, green culture. You don't mess up the place. See, I have also seen construction sites in other big cities. I'm not naming the cities. They're so pathetic. They're treated really inhuman. Whereas Kerala, the kind of respect one gives to the other, probably to the kind of socialistic, Marxist or thing, we respect human beings is very high. So I think so. Everything is taken care well. And have you ever heard one case of a migrant worker who has got COVID? In Cochin, I have not heard. Only people returning from other countries have spread that. So that means the local hygiene has been kept quite high. So that's what, that every rule is being followed. Not one case in one site of probably 500 sites here has reported any COVID case.
Yeah, so very right, very true. Yeah, please go ahead.
So that to answer your question, all precautions are being taken as per COVID and everything. Only thing, the government, I think so, has been in a little rush in the last 1 or 2 days to get many of the migrant workers out. I think the government should focus on sending the migrant workers who are jobless in Kerala, not the people with jobs, because Kerala's salary structure is nearly 3 times the salary structure. Why did this 3 million, the 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs come to Kerala? Because the salary levels in Kerala for the workers are 3. In plantation, I think so, it's close to 4 times the salary you get in your northeast and eastern states. Yeah. So it is like a gulf for them. Or Indian going to US, other state people from 5-6 states coming here is, they have a nice lifestyle. That's a huge thing. The earning is really it's like them going to the Gulf. Huge money they are making, and we are also happy to give. It is not that we are cribbing and giving. That's a kind of give and take. They give labor, we pay money. So it's a win-win situation for all. But unfortunately, government have been trying to drive away people with jobs, which is what we have brought to the notice of the government yesterday. They have also taken it.
Yeah, I think we need to go into that a little bit more as we come to the question of manpower once the disruption is over. We'll come to that. Sri Sahai, Sri Lava has actually touched upon the situation in Kerala, which is unique in many ways. So, as Mr. Cherian said, the buyers live in 58 countries. The homes are all in the small 560-kilometer area. But as the Builders Association of India, and yourself as one of those top, spokespersons for the Builders Association, you would be seeing this differences between the various states. And as a national organization, as a professional in the field, you would be trying to bring about some kind of similarity, commonality in the handling of migrant labor, in the handling of inventory management in this situation of crisis. What is your view on that?
Yeah, I really appreciate Mr. Lava's observation that Kerala has set a benchmark. That is something for every state to follow. But one thing, Kerala being a small state, and also perhaps the project sizes there are smaller compared to what we have in north or west region, that perhaps is achievable. But it is all the same a very appreciable effort. We must all accept and follow. In across India, what we've been having our feedback is that migrant workers stranded at project sites have been well taken care of by the construction, the contractors and the developers. Developers and contractors have jointly come together on private projects, and on government projects. A lot of facilitation has been done by the government, whether it is a state government project or a central government project. So the prime importance being given during this COVID time is for the welfare of the workers which are there on the project sites. So this is something which we have to accept. The facilities being provided have been improved. The SOPs have been given by, like, I'm a chief operating officer of Ahluwalia Contracts. We have a pan-India presence across India. We're doing a lot of big projects. There are SOPs which have been formulated in the very first week of this COVID, which we are following for the health of the workers, for people who would start the works. Maybe at certain project sites the work have started, certain would start maybe after the lockdown. But yes, health of the worker, site hygiene is of prime importance, which is being looked into. There is an additional cost, but nobody is minding, nobody is reluctant to put that extra cost. So that is something which is very positive, which has come out of this scenario. So, and as we say that, post-COVID also, we'll discuss this later, but it has become a style of living now. Social distancing, hygiene, clean toilets, clean facilities for the labor camps. This is something which all will be on the priority list of everybody.
Yeah, Shri Vaidya, we have been hearing about the state governments dipping into the construction workers welfare fund board, and asking, spreading the money, so maybe thinly, but giving some solace to the migrant workers as well. But Mr. Lava pointed out an important point, and that point is that people who are good workers and people who have guaranteed employment, they are also moving to their homes, their villages, with the result that we do not know when they're going to come back. Because of the absence of the workers from the field for a brief period at least, I think the disruption would get prolonged, maybe by a week, by a month even. So how, Mr. Vaidya, is this going to affect the deliveries once the disruption is over?
Yeah, that's correct. You made a very valid point, actually. And what I would see more and more, that the migrant workers are so important to the actual progress of the industries, right? Like, as we can see more and more, it's all, even if you have the fund ready, even if the government will allow the sites, if you don't have the migrant worker, nothing would be able to move forward, So what we see that trend is that now, just probably recently, the governments have started realizing, every state government has started realizing that the migrant workers are probably the key to the reviving of the construction economy and appealing them to stay back. However, if you look at it, then the migrant workers, even if they have a job, the confidence level in the industry is very low, right? Like, yes, all the developers, all the contractors, as Mr. Ajay Arun said, is that they sort of, wherever is they are sort of limited to a site, they have given them a kind of a good hygiene, food, everything is taken care. But that mindset of the fear of COVID is affecting them. You can imagine, if you can get into their mindset, they are sort of uneducated or semi-educated young guys, probably with the family and the kids, most of them are saying that even if we probably would die here, instead of that, better we go home and die, right? Like, even if they don't have the food there, they would be actually with their family. Now, they know that they can't survive that more, right? But the situation is that now everyone is predicting that once the workers has moved out of the site, which I can see that now only probably 20 to 25% labor only is there in every city, right, of the construction site. And those are like the captive skilled worker contractors or the developers have retained. The rest is all is sort of gradually moving out in every train. Now, what you see is that when will they come back? One thing which we realize that in South, from Kerala, from Bangalore, from Chennai, Hyderabad, all of them are from the northern side, like even from Delhi, right? Most of them are Jharkhand, Bihar. All of them have that festive season coming. It's their tradition. They once they're gone, they probably will only come back after Diwali. Even the situation returns. I think most of the people are predicting that even if you have sorted out your money, sorted out your finance, government will allow, COVID will be under control, which is there in Kerala and other places, but still you would not be able to full-fledgedly deliver your project or even start the project till probably September, October, or probably after that. So this is a kind of a social impact what we see, right? Like, and this is unfortunately has been seen very late, right? Like, which is if there has been a people come together in kind of addressing them, government assuring them that okay, there's no point in going to your own village because there is nothing more you will achieve. You probably will infect them as well, right? Like, but that is unfortunately not happened in this lockdown period. And now what you see is a mad rush in sort of a migration in their own places, which will not help the economy. And especially it will affect the construction in a really, really bad scenario where unless the construction move, the money won't flow in, So that's a conundrum we will be getting into.
Yeah. Mr. Shiva, inventories are a big headache. Though this is an industry which does not deal much with perishable raw materials, but cement is a big question. You have all, many of the builders across, whether you're handling infra projects or whether you're having housing projects, even housing projects, the scale has grown up to such an extent that the way you would manage your inventory is a big issue, even when work is not on. What are the challenges there?
If you see, the market is completely integrated, and when people say, relaxations are being lifted. Am I audible now, or is it better?
Yeah, it's quite clear now.
So it's a completely integrated market, and the relaxations in a particular zone is not going to help us significantly. Because it's not only my supply chain, but the supplier supply chain. Everybody has to be completely operational. The goods movement has to happen seamlessly. Only then, we can receive the material at site. Whether we are talking about a raw material or a finished product, and particularly for finished product, is going to be a big challenge because if we are talking about a factory being fully operational, then they need to have their supply chain fully operational, and then they'll be depending on probably 5-6 suppliers to manufacture their product. So even in normal situations, there is always a challenge in terms of getting the material on time and plan your works at site. And in times like this, it's going to make it very, very complicated. So and nobody knows what is going to happen now, and only time will tell whether we can actually do it properly. So that is one of the thing. Only when the relaxations are completely in place in all the zones and all the states, we can figure out whether it's going to get back to normal in a reasonable amount of time. But definitely I'm looking at anywhere between 3 to 6 months when people can be fully operational, because we are talking about cash flow issues, funding issues. All those things will come into play when it is we are talking about operation of factories, etc.
Yeah,
so,
thank you, Shiva. Yeah, I would leave those ways. All these points open to others also whenever your turn comes. But here is a question from Satish Selvamani, who has joined us live. The question I'm referring to Sri Arun Sai. The question is: will the construction cost, which includes both materials and labor cost, has chances to increase or decrease If so, by how much in terms of percentages? Can you make any prediction on that, since you're also in the construction, active construction field?
As I see, the construction cost would increase because the productivity and efficiency issues will be there. The labor output is definitely going to be less for any job, considering that there has to be norms followed for social distancing, and with a lot of gadgets, PPEs, you have to work. So it would be an issue as far as the productivity is concerned. Second, we have to understand what Mr. Jain said. It is migrant workers are not limited to only construction industry. They're migrant workers also for the supply chains. We have different factories producing a lot of construction products, as Mr. Siva said. There are more than 100 products which are used in the construction industry. They are all going to get affected. The supply of those is going to get affected. They again are going to face the same problem. The factory has to run in underproduction because of the worker issues and because of the material issues, raw material issues, which are going to be there. So nothing is going to come in normal condition for next 6 months. But yes, the construction workers, we are expecting for them to come back by July, because that's a seasonal thing. Workers normally go during this April, May as a seasonal issue for harvesting and their home. And when the monsoon sets in, they normally return back. So we are expecting the construction workers on project size to come back in early July. But yes, for the next second quarter, first quarter is going to be bad. Second quarter, we are expecting things to improve and progress, but it is still anybody's guess to what extent. But yes, cost of materials, definitely there could be an increase of around 5 to 10%, and similarly the labor cost is going to go up. So eventually the construction cost will definitely go up.
Mr. Lava, your take?
See, being with everything in shortage, today you asked to construction sites has been asked to open, but the supply chain like quarry, sand, metal, nothing is coming in. Truck movement has not stopped, especially in a place like Kerala, where every manufactured item has to come from north, in the sense from Tamil Nadu, Karnataka up. So the cost is going to go up, but the pressure is there on the builder to have a more affordable. It's a paradox actually. All your input cost, land cost is going up, but the selling price has to come down because affordability is not going up. It's a real issue. So I think so some real re-engineering. We have only control of what is happening inside our office, inside our site, our design. So the input cost, definitely the way in which you have social, like for example, yesterday I read an article, one shift working, because of so they are going to government to say you do 3 shifts, so you have 100 workers, do 3 shifts with 30 workers each. That means the cost of production for even the manufacturer is really, really going to go up. So the machinery utilization is going to come down. So everybody is in for a cost increase, but whether he can transfer the cost to the next person is a question. Everybody's input cost is going up. So how efficient you are in managing your cost increase is the innovation every company has to do. So that's how I look at it. Every cost will go up, but what is the re-engineering you have got to do, because you can't afford to pass on the cost increase is the question.
Yeah, we will come to the question later. Shri Cherian, the last quarter of any financial year is going to be very crucial for construction industry. That's when 30-40% of your revenues come in. We as Sri Lava pointed out, we hit a roadblock, we hit a cul-de-sac. Now we need to overcome it, scale it, and then we probably will have to re-engineer our strategies to remain alive and stay afloat in this industry. And what is happening to that 30-40% revenue, the bulk revenue that you were anticipating? Will that materialize at all? And in what way?
No. I just want to add to one point to what Mr. Lava said just now. See, as Mr. Arun said, the size of our projects are a little small in Kerala. The labor cost is very high also. So we are not able to implement this highly technology or what you said, this mechanized construction systems also here in Kerala. So, and as Mr. Leva said, once again, we have the problem, even if we have started construction here, unfortunately for cement and steel also, we have to depend upon other states where the COVID is continuing. So that is also a problem for increasing the cost of our products here in Kerala. But after COVID, we are planning to sell product for a lesser cost, which is practically not possible in Kerala. In fact, I didn't get your point right now.
Yeah, I was saying, 30-40% of your, you finish your year end your business. There is actually a what do you call a curve as I speak about the COVID pandemic too. So there is a curve happening toward the end of the year where there is a lot of finishing touches that you give to your account books, to your orders, your deliveries, and that is when you are trying to level off your business in terms of your book adjustments, everything. Now here is a situation where it all got disrupted from beginning of March. Now, do you see the kind of revenues that should have materialized in March before the year closed, coming in quickly? Because we are seeing disruptions not just in the industry but also in the revenue cash flows of the buyers, people who have to buy your properties, and of the government. So what kind of scenario? I would pose this question to Shri Arun Sahai too. So I just want to take Mr. Cherian's take on this.
See, definitely that will be a problem. Maybe for, while compared to other cities, the project size is not very high here. As I told, we don't have that much inventory also. But still, there are a lot of builders, they will have to face a lot of issues in the coming days. I am sure that the government has to offer some schemes like better finance schemes and restructuring of the existing loan schemes. And of course, we expect some changes in the GST pattern, maybe the reducing the GST, or government should offer a provision to get input credit tax benefit in GST schemes. And this RERA, that is also a problem here because we have just started RERA here. It is not possible for us to continue with the present schemes. Definitely, we should have a postponement of RERA also. We expect a lot of support from the government. Then only we can continue here in this industry.
For a special reason for posing that question to you, Cherian. I will come back with that question to you again. But Shri Arun Sahai, your views on that, about the known realizations, of what your revenue, the anticipated revenue, and how it is going to affect your business in the coming days before the disruption is over and you start deliveries, work goes on schedule and all that.
Yeah, I'll just add one thing to our previous question. See, besides the cement and steel, most of the construction materials, they come from MSMEs, which are mid-level segment industries. So they are all going to get affected when it comes to workers, when it comes to productivity. So the availability of material definitely, without any question, would be on stress. Supply chain would be affected, and we will really have to see how best we can perform as construction companies. Now, coming to the question which you just put, liquidity is a big issue. Liquidity for developers, because it has to be generated through their sales of existing inventories or a new inventory which is coming up. Liquidity is an issue. So since the liquidity is going to be an issue, and to curtail the cost, we definitely have to do value engineering. So value engineering, like a company like ours, we are an EPC contractor, Ahluwalia Contracts. So when the project comes to us as an EPC contractor, everything is left on us. So there we do things which curtails on the cost and saves on the time. So when both these factors, they come together, definitely you have a better product and faster product. So value engineering is something required to be done to curtail the cost, to mitigate that cost increase. It is, I'll put it that way. And I've been hearing a lot of webinars on real estate, which my colleagues must have also heard. People like Mr. Deepak Parekh also speaking on real estate situation a couple of days back. Then we have JLL MD, Mr. Nair, then Mr. Anuj Puri of Enerox. Everybody is of one opinion. The liquidity has to be generated by selling of the inventory, even if it means at no profit, no loss. Even Mr. Gadkari, couple of days back, mentioned this. He said the developers must, instead of keeping their loans and burdening themselves with the interest, bank interest cost, must sell off their inventory, even if it means no profit, no loss at the present, to mitigate the present situation. See, we have to come out of this crisis. And the crisis, nobody knows how long it's going to last.
Yeah.
And what would be the best price maybe a couple of months later, or maybe the real estate actually for the next 1 year will definitely will continue to be in stress. So liquidity has to be generated. Whatever inventory we have has to be sold. At what best price? The market dynamics will play a major role in that. Only if there is a liquidity, there will be a performance of the construction contractors working on your projects. And the supply chain would definitely improve once there is a cash flow. So my submission is to this, concern is this.
Yeah, Mr. Shiva, I have a question from Gopal Kabra to the panelists. I'll just pose it to you. It's about the possibility of the operation costs coming down because of the fall in fuel prices. I mean, is that the only single determinant in project costs? Because we know that there are so many other ways. But there is also a related question about the guest workers, the migrant workers, finding no jobs and coming cheap once the disruption is over. Do you foresee that happening? Either of these? The low fuel prices translating into low operational costs and the disruption actually resulting in wages coming down?
On the first question, in terms of the fuel pricing itself, I think it's a bit early to say, because as the fuel prices were going down, I believe the government has increased the duty on the price to keep the price more or less at the same level, the end consumer price. So unless the complete benefit is transferred to the customers, construction industry is a big consumer of fuel, directly and indirectly. I don't believe that will have a major impact. If on one hand the fuel price is going down and if the duty is being increased to boost the economy, rightfully so, then that is not going to help in cost reduction directly. Yeah. And the next one, in terms of the migrant labor, so there are, we'll have to look at it in multiple stages, the short term, medium term, and the long term. Probably in the short term and the medium term, there is definitely going to be cost increase, because there will be shortage of labor availability at, not only in construction, but all the industries that use migrant labor, particularly in the southern part of the country. Yeah. So, even starting from the farm industry, agriculture industry has started using migrant laborers, So, so there is going to be increase in wages because of the shortage in supply. There is no doubt about it, and that will gradually, improve over the next 6 months period, and probably in the long term, still, only time has to tell. But there could be reduction in the wages, but not significant, because there is always going to be a nervousness among the people, to return back. So that is going to be, that stigma is going to be there for a very long time to come, and only time will tell. But definitely, in the short and medium term, there is going to be price increase, because already, construction has started in cities like Bangalore, and there is already a shortage of labor supply. So which means, people who have the deeper pockets, they will go for it, paying the higher wages, and then, the others, will not be left with any choice, because if you have started a project, then somehow you have to get on with it. But in the long term, there is going to be, a reduction in the labor wages, I believe.
Thank you. Mr. Lava, the credit profiles of every industrial player is going to be affected by this disruption. I asked another question to Mr. Cherian, and I said I am reserving that question. My question is, see, once the disruption is over, we are moving into the finances aspect. Now, once the disruption is over, your credit profile is going to take a beating. Many of you, not all, perhaps. Some of you might be well placed, others may not be. Will it be a case of the survival of the fittest? Do you see the prospect of some of the players at least falling by the wayside because of this disruption?
Can I answer the previous question?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Labor rates come down just because of everybody should know. Kerala has got something called the minimum wages. So if the minimum wages is 20,000, a guy says, I will work for 15,000, you cannot employ the guy at 15,000. If the Kerala Labor Department have put wages, minimum wages for a particular type of job, it says 20,000. Labor says, I am unemployed, yeah, I will work for 15,000, you cannot employ him. So the labor rates will not come down because there's a minimum wage act in Kerala. Just a nurse, they have said, say 25. If a nurse comes and says, I'll work for 15,000, you can't employ her. You have to pay the minimum wage, which is probably double of what is there in the country. So it is not a demand supply matter, right? Labor rates, so it's not a demand supply matter. It is the wages fixed by the Labor Department, Government of Kerala. So probably other states don't have. A guy works for 200 rupees a day, you can't employ. So just to know that Labor Department is so active in Kerala that you have to pay the wages prescribed by them. Second thing is, like any business, there is stress on many builders. I wouldn't say it is not there. Then definitely many people will have to close shop. One real mistake is everybody thought in housing it's an easy entry and easy exit. So any fellow with a parcel of land, he meets an architect, and the fellow, he would have come into this business. This is also very, very organized business, like making a car or it's like a manufactured product. Just because you have a land, you can't become a builder. A builder means you have at least 100 things to do, right? Location, architect, licensing, getting the customers. And once you sell, next 15 years, the customer expects service from you. It is not the easy entry and easy exit thing. So those people who don't have a long-term vision of housing, they cannot enter housing. Probably what you said is many people without a long-term vision, they thought quick money business. They say, fly by night, operate and all. Those people who have come with that short-term quick money, I have this land, those people will definitely close shop. It is not that, or the guy will, be in a financial mess. There is no doubt. So unless you have long-term thinking to be there, either by customer handling, brand building and all, it's a long-term effort. So it is like, making a car and all. So you look at it in that way, those people will survive with a long-term vision. Those people who have come for a short-term play and get out will definitely die. There is no question of limping, he will die.
Thank you. Mr. Waita, there is a question from Muni Deepchand. It's about insurance support for projects. Like the question is high. It is important for the affected party, both the developer and the contractor, to check their coverage of insurance policies, mainly comprehensive all-risk insurance, business interruption risk insurance. Will any of the construction insurances help us to overcome the claims done by affected parties? And that also goes to Mr. Shiva. Mr. Waita, your take?
Yeah, actually, I mean, what I understand from all insurances and all risk policies on the construction or any other field has got that force majeure clause, right? And I think all of the insurance companies will evoke that clause saying that this is all under force majeure and this is not covered under any policy. So I don't think there'll be any insurance policy would be help in this regard. But I think this is something to explore further. As of now, what I can see is that all the insurance companies have raised their hand and said that this is not covered under, this is force majeure. Even people are sort of going against the contract, right? This is say even the contractors or the developers, whenever they want to sort of take shelter against shelter within the force majeure, this is the clause which they've been invoking. So yes, there'll be a lot of renegotiating would be happening, and certainly I'm sure that the insurance companies will be the last one to help in this regard. That's my take on this. So far there is no claim has been entertained and probably not been made as well, but this is what it is.
Shiva?
When we talk about the comprehensive or the contractors policy for the construction projects, so they
cover for, whatever the mishaps that happen at a site level. Yeah. So this is, at a much wider level, and, technically you do not have any, accidents or, mishaps that has happened at the site level. So that would be a good reason for the insurance companies to stay away. And then when we talk about, you mentioned another one about business interruption. Yeah. So that again, so that is at a business level. Some companies would have taken the insurance. Probably the large corporates, but definitely not the MSMEs. So the biggest affected are the MSMEs, and they would not have these insurances in place. And again, if the large corporates have it, it's a much wider subject. The insurance companies would once again revoke if there is a force majeure clause in their insurance policy itself. So but that is something we have to wait and watch whether a business interruption policy, if in place, will come to the rescue. It might to some extent in terms of paying the staff salaries, etc. But not definitely in terms of overall reviving the business. So that is something. Probably the government has to step in. The banks have to step in terms of increasing the credit facilities, etc. So insurance, will not be of much use, I believe. But once again, we have to wait and watch for a certain category of insurance policies.
Thank you, Shiva. Mr. Arun Sahai, I wish to rephrase this question in a different way, throwing light on two other aspects which comes to my mind now. See, when you resort to force majeure, there are two reasons for which you do it. One is normal for every contract, which is about unforeseen circumstances. A pandemic is an unforeseen circumstances, or a huge flood is an unforeseen circumstance. But there is also the second angle, which is probably not being talked about much in India today. And I think that is very important. It is about the government laws making it impossible for one party to an agreement not to discharge on the commitment. Like, for instance, in this case, the government has announced the lockdown. It is almost equivalent to a government law. Now, when the government law, creates this kind of a situation, force majeure, can it be extended to that? Would you, as the Builders Association and as independent player, would you be looking at that possibility as well?
I'll just add to what we were discussing on the insurance policy. Normally on a construction project, we take a car policy, which is a comprehensive all risk policy. And the second, in addition to that, we take is a workman compensation policy. Car policy takes care of the project and third party assurance and some mishap which happens on the project because of some design or design issues or whatever. And workman compensation takes care of the workman in case getting injured or there is a fatality. Now, there is no policy to take care of the disease like corona for workers. So government has been insisting for restarting the jobs. They've been insisting, there is a MHA circular which says a Mediclaim policy has to be taken for the workers. Mediclaim policy is still not been formulated by insurance IRDA and for insurance companies when it comes to a group policy. We have group policies for our staff, Mediclaim policy, but for workers, because they are floating people. Whereas staff is, you give the names and the policies and for a respective person. So a floating policy we have for workman compensation. Similar policy we are working out with the insurance companies as from the association level, so as to cover the workers as well. Second is who has to bear that cost. That again is an issue where it is being considered being an additional cost. It will be an additional burden on the project, which has to be borne by the principal employer. So that is another issue. Now, the second question was, please, if you could repeat.
Force majeure, yeah.
Force majeure. Force majeure is there in every contract, whether it is a private or a government project. Force majeure takes into account two factors. One, under what circumstances this is applicable. We don't have a doubt now that force majeure clause is in place now after the government announcement of a lockdown, which has continued for a very long time. So under the same contract clause, you have a provision of extension of time. Normally, it does not say who has to compensate whom. There is a no cost compensation thing which is being discussed. One thing which is discussed is the project, if gets prolonged, you get an extension of time for a certain duration. For the duration, the project has remained closed for no reason of reasons not attributable to you. Second thing which it talks about is, in case it goes up beyond a certain period, it depends on the project to project. It could be 45 days, it could be 60 days or 90 days. Then either party, it says the suffering party has a right to terminate. So our apprehension is also the government, because now revenue, incoming revenue is much less, and unplanned expenditure for the financial year is going up. The budgeted expenditure for the projects will get affected. So with the result, we will have something like projects either being delayed or even being put on hold. So that would be an issue, which this, and taking shelter of the force majeure clause, this is going to happen. It would perhaps also happen in the private industry. My apprehension is also like for the developers. The contractors working with for them may invoke this clause and say, sir, now no, I'm not at default. The prices have gone up. Either you compensate me or and clear my dues. And you forgive me in saying this, but the contractors, they have lot of money to take from their employers, whether they are private developers or government bodies, and people doesn't have that liquidity to pay off. So there would be issues whereby the projects will be on hold or projects getting even abandoned. So that is my apprehension.
Thank you. Mr. Cherian, the earlier question stands for you. Will it be the survival of the fittest? Mr. Lava gave me a very interesting answer. Only the fly-by-night operators would have to go. The others will stay, because this is a continuing thing. This question on force majeure, this obviously is a last resort. I mean, you don't invoke that provision just like that. But I'm the only one outside. I mean, even Mr. Nebu is part of the construction industry, not me. I'm a layman. I'm a buyer of an apartment. So I'm looking at, from my perspective, and from as a last resort, what is your take on that as a lawyer? The only lawyer among us.
See, in law we talk about law only, but no, there is a saying that Sabbath is for man, man is not for Sabbath. You know, this force majeure clause, law is for man. See, suppose our lockdown period is only 2 months. Just imagine, it's 2 months. Okay, if you are getting an extension for completion of project for 2 months, you will be happy. Will you be happy? Never, because, take it in the case of migrant labor. Suppose if all migrant laborers leave the state, they will be coming back maybe after 6 months, after 8 months. Because of the corona, maybe they're in their state, or if they come back, definitely we will have quarantine period here. So they'll be afraid to come here also, In effect, it will take 6 to 8 months if they leave the place. So the work will be prolonged for 6 to 8 months. That is one area. The second area, now the monsoon is coming. Now we all have a lot of work to be completed before this monsoon. If we are not able to complete this work before this monsoon, we will have to wait for another season that may take another 8 or 9 months. What is the use of 2 months force majeure clause? Really, there is no use at all. And from the client side also, so for them also, they have a commitment to make the payment on time. If there is a delay in the payment as per, they are also liable. In present condition, from my office, my staff is not in a perfect mind to send a request letter to our client to ask for a demand for money, because we know what is their condition there. So, and they are not able to come to our place. They are not. They don't have salary. In many countries, they have salary cut also. They don't have money to forward. They are not ready to execute the agreement with the banks to forward the finance to the builder. in many ways, our inflow is also affected by this thing. So from client sides also, from builder side also, this lockdown is not 2 months. The effect of that 2 months lockdown is maybe 8 or 9 months. So legally, you say 2 months force majeure clause extension is not at all possible. From your first part, in every industry, if a calamity like this comes, there will be there will be difficulty for some builders. In any industry, there will be some problems. Definitely, they will suffer. That is why I said the government should act in such a condition in a better way. Government have to take some serious steps to save this industry, this housing sector. In Kerala, we have, in addition to other problems of other states, Kerala, we have a lot of other areas. Our building rule is also in trouble. KMBR amendments came. That is not at all good. We cannot continue with that KMBR rule. And, we have problem with the excavation. And we are facing a lot of issues in Kerala. Even the stamp duty itself, 8 plus 2%, 10% is our stamp duty. Maybe a surprise for many other states where the stamp duty is maybe 50% of this thing. These all are problems that we are facing in Kerala. If the government is not ready to take a serious steps, as I said, in RERA, in GST, in stamp duty, in all these areas, if the government, in KMBR amendment, if our Kerala government is not able to take an immediate step, definitely, as you said, there will be some problems in our industry. No doubt.
Mr. Lava, there is this question from several of our viewers, Mr. Kobal Khabra himself and others, asking us whether there would be a fall in, like Rajiv Talwar and others. They're all asking this question, whether there wouldn't be a fall in the material cost, given the low offtake. Because there are no takers, would there be a fall in cost which would benefit you?
We wish that happens, but I don't foresee it. If that economy of scale of the other producers, we don't know whether the machinery is being put to full use. Usually, when more production, they are able to sell at a lower price. When you are making less with more, you have got a machinery, say, to make say 1,000 tons of some material. You are using the same machinery to make 100 tons. Definitely, you are going to charge 20-30% more. So that economy of scale, the manufacturer of that product, see somebody in the switch industry, he has got say 1,000 workers and machinery to make 2,000 crores worth of switches. He is having the same infrastructure and he is making 50%, means it is not viable. Either he will close this company for 6 months, or at lower price because he has got his own loan, he has got his working capital commitment. You cannot retrench and send away staff next day. You have heard the Prime Minister talking, give jobs, alternate day, give jobs. When you give all the jobs on alternate days, that doesn't mean you are going to pay him 50% of the salary. So it is not just over the call. You can't say, okay, you are making lesser consumption means lesser thing. Overheads is there. See, these are all industries which have come with huge investments. Anything, the paint industry, paint or wire, electrical, steel, everything is huge investment. Just because he makes 50%, there is no buyer, it doesn't mean he is going to reduce his price. He has to do his economics. More you produce, why China is selling cheap? Surely because he is producing more. You make 100 tons, another fellow makes 1,000 tons. The guy who makes 1,000 tons will be able to sell cheaper than the guy who is making 100 tons of the same product. So I don't think so. Lower offtake means price. See, if the guy is going to close shop, there's a sanitary ware shop. He is going to close shop, then he will give 50% discount for whatever stocks he has. The manufacturer is not going to close shop. Have you seen shutters down? The discount is there. You go to a shopping mall. Okay, that product, that jeans, 50% means he wants to get rid of the design, or he doesn't want to that style, fashion, or that fashion is gone out. He will reduce. This is not a product where the fashion is going to go out of the business. So I don't think that will happen. You would really ask a manufacturer whether he will sell cheap because he's making 50% no offtake. He will close his factory for 2-3 months instead of selling cheap, I think.
Thank you. Mr. Shiva, coming to you, there is this, major players like, Larsen and Toubro and others. they are all recalibrating their work schedules and project implementation schedules. Now, do you see that becoming a pattern across this industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think given the current stoppage of works and the new norms in terms of the social distancing, I mean, what people are talking about, still, I mean, it's very unclear how that can be implemented at a site level. But definitely, I mean, that is going to have an impact in terms of any of your project schedules. I mean, even simple things like the amount of time that takes for people to enter the site might become 3 times, because we are talking about screening every worker and every individual that comes to the site. So that is going to, I mean, either people have to come in early, which is again, I mean, a challenge, because I mean, if you're asking people to come early, then I mean, you have to look at the hourly cost as well. So starting from the entry into the site, and if we have to strictly implement the social distancing at site levels, then one is the practicality of it, and then if you even try and achieve it to a large extent wherever possible, so that's going to reduce your productivity significantly. So that means, even if you work multiple shifts, etc., you need to review the project schedule and rework on that, and that's going to have an impact on the project timelines and therefore the cost. So that is something, I mean, people are, I mean, working on now. I mean, as a company, we are already working with certain clients, where people are looking at revised schedule for project. What could be the post-COVID impact? In terms of my project timelines, and then once we establish that, then we need to go back and see, I mean, what is the cost for that and what is the affordability for that. So everything is tied in together, so I'm sure all the companies are doing the same, the big contractors, the medium and the small contractors, and it all depends on how much serious you are about implementing it. What is your corporate responsibility, to the government guidance, so one is as a contractor or a manufacturer, and then who is your end client, if are they insisting on it, everything plays a role in reworking these project schedules and implementation of the new norms that are going to be in place, whether we like it or not, for a considerable amount of time, until this corona completely goes away, which is not unlikely, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Baita. I have this question, and Mr. Anup Kautinia, one of our viewers, has supplemented to it. It's about the possibility of, there being lesser demand. I think Mr. Lava mentioned this earlier, or you mentioned it earlier. There being lesser demand for built-up spaces for mass use, like, the IT companies have now decided on work from home, and several other service sector industries are going to do that. So if that happens, I think massive structures are going to be in the low demand zone. And I wouldn't say the same about housing, but we'll have to briefly at least mention affordable housing, about which, you all have your take. And I would like to conclude this discussion. We have another 5 minutes to go, and I will have the final questions to Arun Sahai, to which you all can supplement. It's about what Cherian has mentioned again and again about the government support you all are looking forward to. Mr. Vaita, on this question that I raised.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And this is something which we've been doing a little bit of research on that as well. See, what has happened is that now actually the post-COVID social distancing norms will change actually the office layouts, right? What earlier used to be, the people used to have the 60 square meter of the 60 square foot per person, the densely packed office spaces is probably going to change. They have to really again go back and probably sort of give at least 6 foot distances, which will bring in probably the larger desk partitioning, like more sort of spacing out the users, that is actually probably will increase everyone need to rework their layout in a probably short and medium terms, right? Like to make sure that a lot of people are starting with an alternate desk system, right? Which means that there'll be lesser people they will be able to accommodate in short term, and in long term they will need to reduce the number of occupant per say the 100 square foot, right? Like, so what would happen is that now that probably the number of people will sort of reduce to say 80 or 100 square foot per person. That means that the people will be able to accommodate lesser people, and at the same time, what you see that the working from home will be continuing. Like now that they learned to working from home also could be very productive, so that will continue. So those both things is probably offsetting each other. So what I mean, the recently whatever the office space fit out layout which we are working on, people are saying that consider that 80% of the people only would be coming, and now there'll be 20% increase or 25% increase on the square foot per person what you give. So that probably will offset. Yes, there would be a short-term requirement of the people working from home would be there, but eventually, because of that more square foot requirement and the social distancing, it probably would be offsetting against each other. So that's what it is going to happen. It's not going to reduce the commercial sort of consumption of the spaces. Probably there'll not be, still the building would be that vacant, and most of the companies have renewed their demand as well, that okay, I will be needing this space, I would be needing it, like it's, that's what it is right now.
Thank you. In the housing sector, there is this discussion about affordable housing. Mr. Lava, you are the managing director of SFS Homes, which actually operates both at the affordable level and at the premium level. What would be your take on that? Quickly, please.
Excuse me, what's the question? On office space, is it?
Yeah.
Work from home. Work from home.
Yeah, no. This is about housing sector and affordable housing as a way out of the current situation.
See, like definitely the product of the future is going to be affordable housing, or housing, whatever be the price band and the size band, because what is affordable size wise is one parameter, and total price, total cost is another parameter. Basically, state to state cities, the bigger city houses will get smaller, but smaller cities, the houses which were say 2,000 will become 1,500, because people, it all depends on migration happening to a city. Bangalore, what has happened? Millions of people have migrated to Bangalore in the last say 15, 20 years after the IT boom. Maharashtra, Pune, Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, migration is taking. Whereas in cities like Kerala, the migration towards our Cochin, Trivandrum, Tricur and all that, migration is not happening. So here still, people will want to have bigger houses. So it is not the same question, shoe that fits all. Bigger cities, I feel, but the size of the house will come down. Smaller cities, the size of the house will not come down in the same proportion. Only when migration to a city increases, there is more pressure on housing. Now I feel in places like Cochin, in the 1,500, 2,000, there is no pressure on housing because already too much has been built up. So it depends on the city to city, but definitely all over the country, people want to, everybody's aspiration is to own a home. That is one good thing in housing. Car, you can use Uber, but nobody wants to stay in a rented house throughout his life. So as long as his aspiration to own a house, we have to see what is the economic status of that particular city, and we have to get to making what that city requires, or the population of the city, what they can afford. We have to get to that. There is no doubt. We have to get our prices down, sizes down, and try to sell larger quantity.
Thank you, Mr. Lava. Mr. Anusai, the industry on its own would be doing a lot of realignment of the business strategies, would be working out different strategies to get out of this crisis. But you would obviously want, as Mr. Cherian earlier pointed out, the government to back you up, to give you a leg up so that you can stay afloat. I think we are coming to the end of our discussion. I think that's a very important point that you are the best person to talk about.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Nair. My take on this is we definitely require a relief package. And the relief package has to come from various government bodies, whether it is a state government or a central government. And We have for a construction industry, we have a BOCW cess fund, which is collected 1% across India from our construction projects, whether it is private or government. So though that fund, by and large, with states is lying unutilized. I think for Kerala state, they have utilized that fund for the construction welfare, but not, perhaps they have not even, may not have exhausted the fund. So they must come out, the governments must come out for labor welfare, for paying them wages, because it was made mandatory for the employer to pay wages during the lockdown period. So that has been a big burden. So whether people are paying or not paying, my submission on that is that let the government, through that fund, provide the medical facility which is required, additional medical facility, additional labor hygiene, labor better spaces for labor, and medical facility, and also compensate to the extent of wages. So that is one relief which we are looking for. Second, for the real estate sector, if they can, we have represented from Builders Association of India to Prime Minister as well as to the Honorable Finance Minister for stamp duty reduction and a uniform stamp duty across the country. We say that different states maintain different percentages and different duties. So it should be lowered so as to encourage people to make investment. And housing sector will only flourish, and especially the PMAY, affordable housing sector will be relevant if those stamp duties are reduced. GST is, there is a applicability of GST while the construction is on, and not on the completed projects. That again should be waived. So GST relief should be given. Stamp duty relief is required to be given. Construction workers, the fund which is already there, the money which belongs to, so to say, to the workers, should be utilized for them. That would help us in less burdening on the developers and the construction companies.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Arun Sai. I think we are at the very fag end of our session. Anybody wants to add half a sentence? Just half a sentence?
May I? Regarding that affordable housing. Now, the central government have some schemes for affordable housing, which is costing less than 45 lakhs. Here in Kerala, this product is not at all viable, because of the land cost and construction cost. So we have a request to government to increase that 45 lakhs to 75 lakhs. Here in Kerala, the construction cost and land cost is high. So the government should give that special offer of special schemes for affordable housing by changing that 45 lakhs to 75 lakhs tariff also. And one more point, in Kerala, if our government take a decision to stop the so-called hartals and ban for another 2 years, definitely we will have more working days in Kerala.
Thank you.
That's also a point we can propose.
You were showing your hand, Mr. Lava.
What we are not expecting any monetary benefit from the government of Kerala, which they cannot give. No point a guy who does a business and goes and says, I am broke, COVID and all that, no point, nothing works. All what we are really requesting the government is ease of doing business. Unfortunately, the housing business, we are depending on so much of time for licensing, so much of time to get power, water, every government thing. So too over dependent on the government for every action of the business. So I would suggest government ease of doing business, probably some financially also some stamp paper is one part. Otherwise, a processing, building rule, all these, excavation to, remove or making basement. We have given some 12 areas where the government have to, all these 12, there is no financial implication for the government, other than it will make the time shorter for us to complete the project right from the time of land acquisition. So I feel our request of ease of doing business, which we have given so many times, just if that is looked into, I think the pace of construction, the pace of sale, everything will come up. We don't expect any softs from the government. You simply give no interest waiver, all that. I think so nothing is going to work. You simply even ask. We can't, no money from the government, only ease of doing those areas. I feel if the government really puts their head and, tries to smoothen things out with a time frame, you apply for this, you are given in 15 days, apply for that excavation, all that. Then I think so the whole business will be move faster. and come project completion, everything will happen. So ease of doing business, the government have to look in without any big financial implication for the government.
Thank you.
That's
Mr. Shiva?
See, one thing we have to keep in mind as a construction industry is the product, any product that we do, it takes quite a significant amount of time for delivery. The minimum what we are looking at is 1 year, it can go up to 3-4 years. So we have to look at, on the positive side, and then, work towards that. By the time a product could be delivered, the demands would be, or, most likely will be back in place, in 2 years' time, by the time you launch a project. Yeah, so that is what, probably, the industry also has to look at. Maybe in 3 years' time, definitely the demand will be back in place. And then, we have to work towards that. And that is the positive set of mind, I think, the industry has to move forward with. It is not like, any other manufacturing industry where you can cater for the demand in 3 months' time. If the demand comes up today, if a car manufacturer has a facility, he can deliver that car probably in 3-4 months. But that's not going to happen with the construction industry. It's a very long-term, process. And that is what I think probably the real estate sector will keep in mind, from the previous experiences, and probably will move forward. This, crunch would be a very short-lived, 3 to 6 months, and probably, then people will look at the long-term prospects, when they can deliver the product, and then what could be the potential demand during that time. They're talking about 2 to 3 years when the product is available for, consumption.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Jayant Vaita.
No, I think what we're looking at is that the typical resilience of the real estate industries, right? Like, what we see is that we have real estate industry has survived a lot of ups and downs, and especially all the builders, as Mr. Lava has said, that they have never asked for the money from the government. They only asked that the business should thrive, right? In spite of all the kind of regulations, and also ease out the regulations, or relaxing the taxation is only thing probably they could ask. So I think looking at all that factors, the real estate industry would go through this turmoil. They will probably come up, and the things like, and it will reinvent itself through affordable housing, through sort of a low-cost products on the commercial side, reinventing the spaces like the warehousing, the co-working, all of that probably might come up and fill up that space. And I think as it is probably globally, it will happen the same thing. So we have a lot of, we have to keep our eyes open, see what else people are doing outside India as well, and probably do that needful to make sure that we sort of bridge that gap, and come up probably much better way in the next new year,
Thank you very much, Mr. Jayant. I'm sure, we have been democratic in distributing the space and time that we had. And I'm sure you all had your say on topics of great concern for you and also for all of us out here. And we from the construction philosophy are extremely grateful to you, to Sri Arun Sahai, Sri Lava, Sri Jayant Vaita, Sri Shivasena Pati, and also to the scores of people who have been with us, who have joined us. I'll just name a few of them. Satish Selvamani, Nana Khote, Ravi Kannadichami, Ajay Kaila, Rajiv Talwar, anonymous attendees, many of them, Shiv Sharma, then Anup Kaundinya, Bharat Reddy, Padma Kumar from Kozhikode, then Gaurav J. And last, Sujata Madela, she has come up with this question: will there be employee layoff in construction industry in the coming days? I think those issues we have discussed earlier in the day. So we are all grateful to all of you, Gopal Kabra and Kapil Chugh and all of you. We are so grateful to you for having joined this live webinar on a very important segment of the Indian industry scene, which is the most labor intensive, which affects the lives of all of us. And thank you very much. Over to Nebu. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being here on this healthy debate. And this is just a beginning. We'll have more and more discussions on various topics. And thank you. Thanks again.